Okay, today's video, we are going to talk about Acxiom or Acxiom, as some people call it. And find out, using the data that you can get from Acxiom to tell you exactly who buys from you, whether that be monitoring or looking at the traffic that comes to your site, or the customers you have, or the qualified leads you have coming in that you have known and marked as qualified, or the best customers you have. You have a customer list, in other words, the top 10%. You can look at that top 10%, just having the list, sending it to a company like Acxiom, and they'll tell you the one of 12,000 different individual traits that the people on that list have. And then ultimately what you're looking for is like a series of at least 3 of them that line up the most often, because then you can use that to power an ad campaign. The main thing that people have trouble with because most business owners, they try to make Google Ads work. And even they oversimplify that, and 90% of people never make Google Ads work. But they at least understand why it should work and how it should work. And that's all they can get to work for their business, ultimately. Whereas there's a whole other world out there available to you if you can understand how to run display advertising effectively for your business. I.e. YouTube ads, discovery ads, which are on through Google Ads, on Google properties, display network ads through Google Ads, Facebook ads, if you're talking about Taboola ads, pragmatic ads, which I won't get into exactly what that is if you don't know what that is, LinkedIn ads, so on and so forth. There is 1,000 people out there right now today. If you showed them what you sold and were able to, assuming you could effectively explain to them in a quick / easy / efficient manner what you offer, or how you package it up in terms of maybe to get their attention, such as if you're a life insurance agent, and the way that you get people's attention in that market, since nobody gets excited about life insurance, but you can offer them a free atlas or what have you. Assuming you got the offer and the pitch right and all that, there's 1,000 people out here right now that would buy from you. Assuming that if you showed it to them, and they're all lay down sales, effectively. That is, they're home run, slam dunk, whatever you want to call them. They saw your product or service, or they heard what you had to say in terms of your pitch. It's an effective pitch. They're buying. Problem is figuring out where those 1,000 people are out of, assuming you're in the U.S., 300, 400 million people. And that is where you look at data enrichment companies like Acxiom. Acxiom is just one, where you could come in with a list of names. Effectively, you have the name of the customers you have, John Smith, at XYZ phone number, to make him, because usually you need both of those to know which John Smith you're talking about. And then what a data enrichment company like Acxiom can do is give you the other 300 individual database traits that Acxiom, a data company, has on that John Smith to tell you everything else that you could possibly basically want to know about John Smith. And so that, effectively, the John Smith's data on its own isn't good, but when you combine John Smith with the other 10% of your top customers, and then, like I was saying before, you can line up the individual traits that make them unique. Now you have a way to go out and actually run a Facebook ad that's profitable, because unless they have this, and this together in conjunction, the ad doesn't show up, and effectively, you've got it down to the 1,000 people most likely to buy ultimately. So, because the thing is, when you're talking about non-search engine advertising, running those ads for your business, whether it works or not comes down to, assuming again you have the offer right, whether or not you've got the 1,000 people, or is there one person in there that would buy, but 999 that's not, you can't afford to go after that one person by going after 1,000 people, because you're paying for every time the ad shows up for somebody who's not interested. They call advertising online pay-per-click advertising, not just on Google Ads, but everything, because you pay for a click. The reality is you're paying for every time the ad shows up, because if your click-through rate on your ad goes down or is less, your actually effective cost per click goes up. So you might as well just say you're paying per time the ad shows up. So whether or not you make an ROI after expenses, cost of the ads, cost of the product, cost of the service, whatever, you got to be able to pay for as little ad showings as possible to get a sale. And the way that you do that, number one lever, if you will, the only lever, is figuring out exactly who buys, so you can narrow it down to 1,000 people and have such a high saturation level of people within that 1,000 that will buy, that the cost to get in front of those 1,000 people, which is not much at all, get in front of 1,000 people technically, depending on what market you're in, that might be $10. You get, now even though those 1,000 people would buy, you get 3 people to buy. Now that cost to get in front of those 1,000 people was worth it, and you got an effective campaign that gets an ROI after expenses. So it's just, the problem is most people don't know enough about their customers. They don't know, for instance, like we had in the granite countertop space. We were working with a manufacturer of granite countertop installation. In other words, they buy the granite, they polish it, they cut it, and they also install it. In that market, what the average person that was getting into that market would do, that doesn't know much about anything, is they're going to go after, or try to go after, people that are interested in granite countertop installation. Or they're going to go after people who effectively are interested in maybe other high-end home furnishings, which is sort of okay. But where the money is in that space, and to give you an idea of like what can you do and what actually works and what it actually takes in a lot of markets to make money, make an ROI, you have to know something like what we found out, which is the best customer is going after somebody who is getting ready to move, looking at high-end homes, and then on top of it, in a certain geographic area, which is again a higher-end home. And why is that makes sense? Because if you're looking to move into a new home and you've got money, the first thing people do in that situation is they start to renovate or plan to renovate the new house. If the new house doesn't have granite, because it's an older house, but they like the rest of everything, they'll buy the house and just install the granite. And they get the granite installed before they even move in, so it's all done. So the chances are, effectively, if you're going to move into a new house at a certain income level, is like 1% or greater, you're going to get that granite installed. So now we're talking, or now at that point you're talking money, where you can target people with an offer. You still got to have a good offer. A lot of people just think that you could show up and say, I have granite countertop installation services here, please buy. The magic really comes in when you could say, we're offering 20% off of granite countertop installation for March only, for people that are specifically moving, new mover special. Knowing what you know about who you're targeting, now you've got a really effective offer, particularly if you also know that person was looking for granite countertop information, installers, any of that. Then you're really hitting a home run. But even without that, without even knowing that they're in market for granite, you narrowed it down enough where it's profitable enough. And then once you find this, it'll work and work and work for years, once you find out that audience. So a lot of people don't look at things this way, and therefore they're display ads and they never work. Or they just don't know where to get this data. Google provides some of this data. If you provide them a customer list, under their audience insights, they'll tell you certain things where things line up the most about like people like, it might be like people that like fast food, or people who like coffee, whatnot, but it's limited. It's not nearly as good as going to Acxiom and paying actual money to get information about your customer base or people that come to your site if you don't have enough customers. You've got to have like many thousands of customers to really find anything out, because there's not enough similarities between people generally on a list of like 1,000 people to really have statistical significance in the data that you're pulling. So you go after and you give the data, which you can also do, of the 1,000 people that are coming to your site every month. And then when you look at that over the next year, let's say, then you have 12,000 people to look at. Now you can get some real information about the type of people that come to your site that are interested in what you have, that you're able to successfully attract to your site, what they are, so you can run other campaigns to get other similar people to the site that's going to work. But even in that situation, what you normally do is you target people who've been on the site for over a couple minutes, which you can do. That way, because obviously anybody who comes to your site isn't a good prospect, but somebody who's gotten to the site and decided that what you have is interesting enough to stay, you want more of those people, because those are the ones that are likely to convert. So the goal is to use customer data. But if you don't have it, you have to go this other route, because customer data is going to be more sure. It's going to be more accurate. They obviously bought. Not assuming they bought, but they did buy. So anyway, there's a lot of information you could pick up from a customer list that you have, or a segmented customer list, or people come into your site, of which you can use to build ad campaigns for yourself online. Or if your campaign, a lot of you guys, your campaigns, you're making sales, but the ROI is not good enough. The main way to make your ad campaigns better is just to know more about your customer base, so you can start shutting off parts of your campaign that are never going to work. And naturally you can do that with Google, you can do that with Facebook really easy. You just have to, if you know somebody who buys from you hates coffee, you could find a list of people that like coffee, upload that to Google or Facebook, and then just exclude those people, for instance. So there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, if you will. You could make a campaign that's not quite profitable enough to keep going to make it profitable, or you could use it to just invent new campaigns. And theoretically, you should do both if you are going to go to Acxiom, get serious about your business, and find out more about your customers and or the people that at least spend a decent amount of time on your site, to know who you need to be spending your money marketing to in the future, if you're going to be spending that money at all. So a lot of people won't spend a few $1,000s to get data on their customer base, because they could say, or they will say, well, I could throw that at ads. They do it all the time. By the way, when you were talking about landing pages, they don't want to spend $3,000 for a landing page. They'll gladly dump that into $3,000 worth more of ads, even though the landing page could double your conversion rate like that. People don't view things that way. People like buying traffic. They don't like optimizing the traffic they have. So I have a list here of the type of things that, if you go to Acxiom with your customer list or with the data from your website to find out more about your customers, so you can set up an effective ad campaign like I was talking about before, to narrow down a campaign to get it working, or just have a new campaign that can help you scale and bring in customers on an automated basis from there. And then such as yoga enthusiasts, homeowners, 2 million net worth. Those are all quick examples of what you can pick up from a company, a data enhancement company like Acxiom, to tell you about your customers, so you can power these ad campaigns and find out, like with the granite countertop installation company, how you can do a similar thing for your company as well. So, so with all that said, outside of the people that are searching on search engines, which you can use that to filter, you could, if you were targeting people that, going back to the previous example, that are searching for granite countertop installation services, If that were profitable enough, in your audience menu of your account, you can exclude certain people or decide to spend more per click for certain people if they also match that list. So in the case, if you know that somebody, like I said before, that likes coffee isn't a buyer, well, you can upload a list of coffee drinkers, and then so when they search for your keyword, granite countertop installation or whatever like it that you're bidding on, your ad will effectively not show if they're on that coffee list. But there's not a better way to get non-search engine advertising to work than to look at the data that Acxiom has on your customers that you're trying to go after and the 12,000 plus individual traits that they have on your users that you could easily pay for just by going to them with your data. Acxiom, by the way, is the biggest data company out there, as far as I still know. They have the most data about your customer base or potential customer base, people on your site that are interested, whatever, like I was talking about before, than anybody else. So if you're going to go someplace for data enhancement, some people call it data expansion, they're the one you effectively want to go to just to keep it simple. And they're already going to give you enough data. You don't need to go to anyplace else. Yes, it's not cheap. We're talking about 4 figures to get access to data, but it can make you millions, and you only got to essentially pay for it once. Once you know who the customers are, you know who the customers are. For instance, if you're, to give you a parallel example here, a lot of you guys probably know who Dan Kennedy is. He mentioned that in the mail order bride industry, one thing they found out when they did this thing there is they would find out that 3 times divorced people are a slam dunk for signing up for a mail order bride service that was supposed to be like Christian based or whatever. And after they did that, they knew exactly where to run ads. They didn't even need to know somebody was interested in mail order brides at all. They just knew it was 3 times divorced men. Also, in addition to that, a trucker, bang. That's all you need. And that's what you should ultimately try to figure out using this, or can figure out using this data. And once you have it, now your campaign, any place where you could find 3 times divorced truckers at in a certain minimum threshold, because there's no, obviously you can do that through a company like LiveRamp and then upload an audience that's just that to Facebook to power a campaign. But obviously a lot of other places, if you're going to do like even a magazine ad, you can't get just that. And if it's over a minimum threshold, though, the campaign will be profitable enough. LiveRamp is a company where you can actually build custom lists so you could target on Facebook at a higher level than Facebook provides by itself by default. And if you do want 3 times divorced truckers, you can get that because Acxiom actually has that data on consumers. And through an intermediary company, LiveRamp, you can take that data that Acxiom sends to LiveRamp, which then anonymizes the data, and then create an audience actually in Facebook, so you could target just those people. So it's like as targeted, really, if you want, when you go and you use that, at least when you're talking about Facebook, as long as when you're talking about Google Display Network and Facebook ads through Google ultimately itself, you can create a custom audience inside Google using that system that I just talked about. So, but effectively, you get the general idea of what I'm trying to tell you here, what's possible with it through Acxiom, getting the data to filter a campaign to make it more profitable, or to use to create a new campaign. And that could simply be if you want to do offline campaigns, like a direct mail campaign. Once you know who you need to target, you can go to a company like Nextmark Mailing Lists. You can Google that. Nextmark Mailing List has a customer list for about everything, and or data lists on about everything, and you can find the address lists of people that you want, and then you can send a mailing out to them. You don't have to just limit yourself to targeting online, which is the beauty of this, because once you find out something such as your mail order bride service, once you had 3 times divorced trucker, if you will, Once you have that, now it's just where can we find that audience? Offline, online, just every single place you can get it. It just really clarifies and makes everything easy to do once you've got that information. But like I said, you can also set up through a company like LiveRamp. If the audiences don't exist in Google and Facebook by itself, you can use LiveRamp to create any kind of custom audience like that you want. Even people that buy certain things. If you want somebody who buys food from Italian restaurants, you can create a custom audience through LiveRamp to then target that on Facebook or on Google. Why? Because LiveRamp gets data from the credit card companies. It's really just, once Acxiom gives you the 12,000 plus traits that match up with the customers that you normally have, you'll be able to target those people for sure. So it's not that, oh, who gives a shit, whether I know whether or not my customer likes coffee or not, because you could target anything you want with the power of online ads and that LiveRamp company that I mentioned. So there's no reason not to do it, and actually not many people know about it, so it's going to be highly effective. You're almost for sure going to be the only one in your space doing it if you do this. Most people aren't going to want to pay for data to know about their customer base in the first place. But anyway, if you want to get a few examples of how detailed this actually gets, of the data that you can get from your customer list or whatnot there, here's some actual ones from Acxiom that are actual categories that they'll tell you whether that customer that you have on an individual customer by customer basis have or not have. Yoga enthusiast, homeowner or not homeowner, 2 million net worth, which obviously that could be 3 or 4. It could be precise like that. Checks email every day. Books their card maintenance through a mobile app. Visits TripAdvisor.com. They love gardening. They're a frequent traveler. They buy a monthly coffee bean subscription. They're divorced. So these are all done because Acxiom gets data from. They're really a data broker company. So they buy data from other places that have it. They buy data from credit card companies as well. They buy data from, if you have an app, somebody can reach out to you if you own that app and say, we want access to your customer data, we'll give you XYZ to rent it, and then they use that, and then they go out and get all the data they can and then compile it. And then, of course, they have a way to take that data and tie it to an individual user ID, which could be an email address or a phone number. And then, you being on that app, and then, Acxiom working with that app company, now they know that you were on that app, even though they don't own the app company outright, obviously. So with all that, they were able to build a very impressive profile on you. And you could obviously, if you wanted to test it, run your own name, because they will do that for you, and I've done it myself. It's actually pretty accurate, and I do admit there's some flaws in it, but it's a hell of a lot better than nothing. And when you're talking about big numbers, the important thing here is to know, when you're talking about 10,000 customers, just as a hypothetical number, even if that data list is only 50% accurate in terms of the traits that they think each person has, it's totally fine already at that point in time, because you're not going to by chance have, let's say, 10% of the people on the list like coffee bean subscriptions by accident, because the typical population, that's only going to be less than 1%, but if it shows up 10% of people on your customer list has that, you could bank on that being a relevant data point. Even though half of them, it might not even be correct, 5% so far away from the 0.5 in the general public that there's something there effectively. So don't be discouraged by the fact that the data isn't perfectly accurate, because at least for what you're trying to do to make an ad campaign more effective, increase the ROI like I was mentioning before, or to build a campaign, you don't have to be dead on balls accurate. You got to be close enough to weed out most of the junk traffic from who you're targeting, and then to get over a certain minimum threshold of efficiency, and then the campaign can work. Obviously, when you're targeting individual people and need to know that, if you're you need to target somebody who's a coffee lover in order for this to work, because you went to Acxiom, knew the people you wanted to target like coffee, then yes, that's obviously an issue. But at that point in time, obviously, even then, even if half the people on your targeted list that you're trying to target through Facebook and through, the audience that Facebook has for coffee lovers, or going to a company like LiveRamp that can help you create a custom audience inside Facebook to target that, or in Google, it's still the same thing. It's not going to, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It would only matter if you were targeting one person. But because this is marketing and advertising. It's like grenades. As long as we get close, we're good. It's just a matter of how close. And when most people are, you got to think, the market for online advertising is set on what people, it's all a bidding system, supply and demand. Whatever people are willing to pay for an ad impression on Facebook is what you pay. When you are able to weed out 90% of the never to be interested prospects from your targeting, and because your competitor in your market, as well as other people that want to run ads on Facebook, don't figure out how to get to where they know their customers inside and out, because they use Acxiom data sets to figure that out, and then B, they go to a company like LiveRamp to, with the data they have, create a custom audience that matches a very specific user profile with set traits in conjunction with one another. You're getting so much more revenue out of an ad impression than the average user on Facebook that you effectively have to make money. If you're just doing what everybody else is doing, then you basically setting yourself up to not make money, because you're effectively, what happens is most people that are running the ads on Facebook aren't making any money. To be fair, because a lot of people just don't know what they're doing. They run ads, they don't know that they're working because they don't set up their tracking, and that's the reality. I know this because I look at ad accounts all day long. I've looked at hundreds of ad accounts, and I can tell you most people don't make money. So, so you just have to do better than 90% of people in terms of how well you're doing your targeting of your ads, so that you get a lot more out of each ad impression, and then now you can make money because you're extracting more value out of the impression than the market's able to extract. So therefore, you should be able to afford the impressions, and they don't, or they can't. So that's something to really consider, and really what you need to do in terms of running display advertising for your business in order to get things to work. You've got to understand who your customer is. You've got to understand how to target those exact customers using stuff like LiveRamp, systems like LiveRamp that you can connect with your ad accounts to get the exact people you need to target, and of course having a good offer to put in front of them. So it doesn't matter how well it's targeted if you can't say the right things, or your thing isn't fancy enough or convincing enough or interesting enough, then you're still not going to make money. But that's fairly effective or easy to do as compared to finding that perfect audience that is worth every penny to get in front of those people, and you'll take everyone you can get because it's so damn profitable. And so if you can just get more out of the ad space than anybody else, you'll make money. Particularly if you can get, let's say 10 times more out of the ad space than anybody else, you should be able to make money at that point in time. And if you do like what I'm telling you here, you're going to be over that already. The average person's trying to pick vague audiences on Facebook. They got rid of most of the super specific targeted audiences on there because they used to have Acxiom data that was fed into your as set up as targeting settings actually inside Facebook now, or inside Facebook, and now they took them away due to the privacy debacle in 2020. But you could get Acxiom data to target your ads again through this LiveRamp, so it's a workaround. And now it's not easy to do, so that you'll be the only one in your market and the only one out of 100 advertisers on Facebook actually doing it. Same thing if you're running ads on Google Display Network or Facebook or YouTube ads or discovery ads through Google Ads. So, like I said before, you'll have to, based upon how much data you have, your best is going to be to send the best 10-20% of your customer base to Acxiom to find out which of the 12,000 traits each one of your customers have, and then pick the 3 to 5 most common traits that all of them have to then now power your next display advertising campaign that you want to run, or make your ad campaigns, filter them to make them more efficient that you already are running, like I said before. And if you can't do that because you don't have, I would say you at least need 1,000 names for the data to be relied upon fairly well, because they're on 12,000 traits, it's going to take a lot of people to have things, have traits where you're getting hits, where at least 5% or so, where it's clear that these aren't just a fluke, that the traits that you find that your customers have. The bigger the customer list, the less likely the things that the data is telling you that all your customers have in common is less likely to be a fluke the bigger the list. So the general rule of thumb, to keep it simple, is I would go for a list of 1,000 or more. If you can get at least 1,000, I'm going, if you have 10,000 customers, in other words, I'm going to take the top 20% of my customer base and then use that to get my data and then to power my future ad campaigns, or filter them, if we're talking about that, to make them more profitable, or get them over the minimum ROI threshold we need to make money so we can scale those campaigns. If you can't do that, you just have 1,000 customers or 2,000 customers, then obviously you can't take the top 20% and just look at those. You're just going to look at the customer base that you have, customers you have by itself. If you don't have that, but you have at least 100 visits to your site a day, I'm going to go ahead and create an audience list of anybody who's been on the site more than 2 minutes, and then use that. And then, of course, you're going to have to, you're talking about people have been to the site in the last 6 months or whatnot, and it's not as easy for you to do, but Acxiom will be able to help you get that kind of data when we're talking about live traffic data on the site. Because with the customer list, it's easy. You just send them a spreadsheet at Acxiom. Here's the customers. Tell me, about them. When you're talking about traffic on your site, there's more to it, but it's not hard at all. And the rep there, they'll help you do it. So even if you're not technically savvy at all, you don't have to worry. Or at the very least, they'll tell you what to do and who to hire to help you out with it. But it's really not that complicated. Anyway, I wanted to tell you about this data that Acxiom has. And that, with the power of being able to target any level of detail you want using LiveRamp with Facebook and Google now, there is no reason why you can't get display advertising, i.e. non-search engine advertising, to work for your business in today's environment. Nobody is doing this, and it's so extremely effective. It takes Facebook back to the glory days when you could target really, really well. And on Google, display ads are still always hard to get to work because there's a lot of bot clicks. But when you're talking about YouTube ads, it is lethal. And same thing with discovery ads. When your ads are running on Google properties that don't have as much bot clicks, it is amazing as well. Once you understand that magic ratio, or that magic combination of 3-4 things that a customer that buys every time has, that you can then target on YouTube. You have a really good video ad. I love, out of all the display ads you can run online now, I like YouTube ads the most because it's easier to convey something I want to convey to a user in a video than with a banner ad. So, and I'm great at making video ads. Get that video ad in front of the exact person that we know we need, which has, specifically, like what we were talking about before, where they're interested in moving, they're looking at new houses, and then on top of that, Google already has the data about who searched for anything to do with granite countertop in the recent past. It's insane in terms of how well it works. At that point in time, we know, not just in that scenario, just to kind of back this up, we know that not only is somebody interested in granite countertops then, we know the person who's going to be most likely to buy. So instead of a lead closing at 15% of the rate when we get that lead, it now closes at 45% of the rate, because somebody who is about ready to move into a new house closes at a much higher rate. So we can pay, instead of $100 a lead, we can pay $300, and now it's really easy to get a return with the campaign, just because we simply knew more about the customer that's really profitable than our competition, and we acted on that data. And with Google's data combined with the data that you can get on a through like LiveRamp, and also that Google has on new movers in a certain geographic area that have higher income, like I was saying, we're able to do extremely well. But it wouldn't have worked just targeting people, we know because we tried this, that were interested in granite countertop stuff, insulation by itself in terms of the cost. But once you add in, so it's what you'll generally end up with a lot of times when you run like a YouTube campaign or whatever, is you'll get like a 200% ROI. Well, then really at that point, all you have to do is find out what do we need to filter out. And the way that you filter it out is knowing more about who bought versus who didn't buy, so you can then have a negative audience to filter out the rest of the people that don't buy or don't buy enough to get the ROI from a 200% to a 800%. And that's, in my opinion, to get ad campaigns to be profitable enough is the more important part of knowing who your customer is and who buys specifically than it is just creating new campaigns, because there's a lot of campaigns that make logical sense that should work, but they just don't quite cut it, and so you end up having to chuck the whole thing in the garbage. Whereas now that I gave you the information I gave you here about getting, find out the 12,000 plus traits on your customers who buy actually have, and you can just use that to filter your ads the rest of the way. It's just a matter of getting that data and filtering it enough. Filtering it enough to weed out enough of the waste to where now it's profitable enough to be profitable after your expenses at your company that you have to spend to deliver that product or service you have. So anyway, I pretty much said what I wanted to say about this. For data enrichment, data expansion, Acxiom, main company to go through. Fantastic for making ad campaigns work in today's environment. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned in today's video, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a couple days' time. By the way, you can ask me any ad-related question you'd like. I'm more than happy to give back to you for taking the time to watch this video and to tune into this channel and helping us grow this channel. I got 15 years of experience running ads and doing strategy thereof, and would be happy and could certainly put you at least on the right track with what you're doing. I'd love to be able to help you do that. Beyond that, and on that same topic, if you are looking for the channel to learn how to make millions of dollars with ads for your business, this is the channel you want to subscribe to. So you should go ahead and click the subscribe button if you haven't, given the information that you find on this channel is more relevant than you're going to find on YouTube, because I'm not just a YouTuber, I'm not a course seller, which is what 90% of what you're going to find plus on YouTube. All I do is ad strategy all day long for clients, for a few dozen clients that I have, and I tell you what's working and what's not working on this channel. So if you just want to know, effectively giving you millions of dollars of ad research and results on this channel. We have to guarantee results for our clients, what works. I'm telling you what we're using to guarantee results for clients. That's our specialty service at our firm, and I tell you exactly how we do it. And then if you don't want to do it yourself, we do it for you. So anyway, you should subscribe. And I also got a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog, where you can also find my written material, as well as a column that I have over at entrepreneur.com, that if you like the channel, you really will love my written material as well, which is even more educational and chock full of information that will help you make a lot of money running ads for your business. So check that out as well, or should check that out as well, I should say. Beyond that, as I mentioned, I run an to be clear, I run an advertising firm. That's what Guarantee PPC is. We guarantee results on your campaign before you have to pay anything, or otherwise we don't get paid. And that means more sales or more leads before you raise your ad spend, or if you're happy with your ROI, we can help you scale your campaign a certain minimum amount up front, more than it is now, before even taking a fee, the fee of which will be less than what you stand to make just in the beginning and what we're offering you as far as initial results that we're guaranteeing. So in other words, our fee, if our fee is $4,000 a month, we're going to make sure you're making an additional $5,000 before we start charging our monthly fee. That's our signature service. So if you're interested to see if we can work together in that kind of capacity, you should reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com for a free analysis. And the only catch is we don't work with just anybody. We got to know we can really get good results with your account to take you on, but we're certainly willing and happy to work with you if you look like you've got something we could really do well with and crush. So we could tell you what we could get with it up front in terms of results. You just got to reach out, and we'll certainly tell you what it looks like you have, and what we could do for you. If you aren't looking to work with an ad agency per se, and somebody who could just run your ads and get you the results on autopilot effectively for a monthly fee, we've worked in over 100 different markets at this point in time. I've ran Guarantee PPC for the last 10 years now, of which, if we've gotten results in your market already, it would be silly not to take us up on our offer of campaign templates. Such as if you're in the plumbing space, one market which we've already worked in heavily, spent millions of dollars in ad testing to figure out what works in that market specifically, you could buy from us the ads, the landing pages, the campaign templates, all of it that work for the plumbing space, copy it, paste it into your account, and get the same results we were effectively for a small one-time fee, and you can manage your own campaign still. So, and we of course could tell you the results you would get with it up front before you ever bought the templates. But bottom line, all the time and money and effort it's going to take for you to figure out what we figured out, it doesn't touch the cost of what those templates and what we sell them for. Even if it were free, all the time it took for us to figure out what we already figured out in your market already, why go through that yourself? It's pointless. Just buy our templates. These templates we're selling to people to start other businesses as well. So if you're in a business you hate, want to start a new business, whether that be to get into e-commerce when you're not, or get into selling leads or something like that, we've got several people that have done just that. The best way to start a business is with an ad campaign that works for that business already, because if you can make money with the ads, everything is going to probably work. So anyway, if you're interested in that as well, you can reach out. I'll let you know what we have, what markets we have templates for, and we can tell you all about that as well. But I'll wrap it up with that though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you on my next video where we have another great strategy for you then. See you later.